Welcome back. Oh, you're a little fuzzy. There you go. Welcome back. So, sorry for the delay in episodes. It's been Thanksgiving time, so I've been away, and as you can see, I've already gone ahead and started mocking up things in the engine bay, trying to save time and, you know, wasting everyone's time on camera, pulling it in and out, trying to get everything fitted right. But today, we have a few things to focus on. The primary thing that I'm going to try and do today is get the motor mounts taken care of. Now, I've gone through a few ideas. I actually bought some 5.9 Cummins mounts that were a little bit too big. I ended up going with these motor mounts, I think from a old Dodge pickup. It's actually used quite a bit in the Dodge Mopar Ram lineup. So the actual part number I'll put on screen. I think it's 2469. Fairly inexpensive, just solid rubber mounts. I'll show you how I plan on using this in a little bit, but gonna try and keep it inexpensive. I have some angle iron that we're gonna use, and I will show you in the engine bay in just a little while what my plan is with minimal welding and drilling to make this work. So other than that, let me find what the guy's name is. There's a gentleman that I do want to shout out on YouTube who has made a few comments on my videos to try and give me some advice, and he commented on my last video regarding the fuel system on the truck, and something that I neglected to notice is actually on the gas trucks there isn't a physical switchover valve between the front and the rear tanks. That is only on the diesels. So the switchover valve for the front and rear tank is actually just a power switch that activates the front pump or the rear pump. So that being said, now that we're switching to diesel, we don't have a physical fuel pump in the tanks to push fuel. We have a lift pump at the injection pump that pulls the fuel up, meaning that our front to rear switch for our fuel tanks is not going to work. And once that front tank, which I think is 16 gallons, hits empty, it's just going to be sucking air in the lines and is going to cause us to probably break down or just not run well at all. So to fix that issue, there's two options. Either A, I could switch over to a full switchover valve from F-250, F-350 and end up spending a few $100s wiring in and bolting up a new switchover valve, or I could get a 33-gallon Bronco fuel tank in the rear, which at first I thought was going to be more expensive, but luckily I got on the Jags right when I saw his comment, and they were running a nice Black Friday sale. It was the last one they had in stock, and I got a 33-gallon Bronco fuel tank for $100. So that's what I plan on doing. I am going to plan on keeping the front fuel tank. I'm going to change around some of the wiring and use it as a reserve tank. So I'm going to wire in a transfer pump that will pump fuel from the front tank to the rear tank, and then the lift pump is just going to pull everything from the rear tank up. So at the end of the day, I'm expecting probably around 45 to 49 gallons of fuel. So knock on wood, hopefully this works. But big shout out to our guy Ahis for giving us this information, and he actually helped on another thing. I think it was the turbo drain, where I went to Home Depot and got the wrong kind of pipe. But that being said, let's get into it today. I'm going to try and weld for the first time in my life, so wish me luck and don't make fun of how bad this might end up. So my plan right here is this is the ideal position for the engine that gives us enough room for that oil drain down there and a happy amount of room for us to be able to work and maneuver around and get the oil filter out if need be. But unfortunately, the stock motor mount sits just over this crack in between the V8 engine mount perch and the V8 engine cradle cross member. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut an 1/8 inch groove in between these two, not too deep, but enough to fit the angle iron down, and then do a single bolt through here to hold the angle iron in, and now I'm gonna do a top weld over the top to this engine perch, and then that will allow us to have a fully flat surface to put that motor mount on to make this engine mount sit happily and not want to move around too much. I am gonna have to grind down the bottom of the stock mount so it's flat, because it's at a little bit of an angle right now. So I'm gonna grind that down flat, and then we're just gonna end up doing a nut that holds it in the top right there. It'll be a similar situation on the other side, and I'll show you once I pull the engine out, but I already pulled the perch on that side to kind of make it easier to show. This bolt hole right here is actually where the mount is gonna sit, so we might not even have to do a piece of angle iron there. I might do it just to add some surface area for it to sit on if there's not enough, but fingers crossed that we don't have to. All that being said, let's pull this engine out and start working on it. All right, so we're looking at about 8 inches to a piece. Cut that sucker out, and then we'll make our groove in that little piece. Come on, pen. There you go. Perfect. This piece will slide right in there and then give us a flat surface to mount on. So now we grind this down, make sure it fits, send a hole through the angle iron and there, and then give it a little top weld. All right, so change of plan. My blade, and honestly any blade that I get from Home Depot right now, is not going to be long enough to cut that groove. And then if I go any deeper, I'm going to start hitting those rivets. So instead, I'm going to make a cut. Can you see that on the camera? I'm going to make a cut like this on the angle iron so it sits flush. We'll be able to throw a bolt through here and then throw a bolt through there to give us some extra strength. And then we're still going to try and do the weld on the top. So let me go ahead and cut this and then get back. This should sit flat, just like that. Let's see if we can drill and tap a hole straight through there. Where's my marker? Where the hell my marker go? Hole, hole. Time to try and weld this sucker for the first time. I've never welded before, but I did see Chris do it, so how hard can it really be? So I'm gonna take a practice pass on our big piece over here just to see if I have this sucker set up right.
Oof.
Let's call Chris and see what he thinks. What am I doing wrong? What do I need to set differently? I'm doing a test pass. Okay.
So basically set it for thicker metal.
Okay.
And then you may end up moving slower. Let me, I'm actually coming like right by your house. I'll stop in for a second.
Okay.
Right, so your wire's going to want to fall down in and it's going to arc. So
Yeah.
you might end up having to kind of angle it back so it arcs on your old weld. Like here will be fine. You'll have to just kind of work your way, and you might be better off to, like I did here.
Yeah.
And it's simple. You just stop, move over, you know, half a dime, stop,
Okay.
and then you won't run into it like spilling down.
I mean, as long as it's welded, I don't care if it's pretty or not. As long as it's
no, but like
gonna hold.
If it drops in, you really want it to kind of be along the top.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, you're ready to go. You're set, hey. Not bad. The steadier you are, the better. Though.
I know.
Don't be afraid to do this. Let me see it for a second. Right, like that's
So just sit in it.
and then. Right, and like just let it eat and then move over.
Okay.
And don't watch weld with your eyes open without a helmet.
Well, I saw you doing your safety squints.
Yeah, my eyes were fully closed. There you go.
We're sort of getting there. All right, I'll do one more.
Yeah, dude. Welded.
There we go. Now I can take this tank back. It's not the prettiest, but it'll work.
I mean, the fact that it doesn't have to sit on that is perfect.
I've seen better, but I've also seen worse. Can't complain.
I mean, there's literally worse right here on your frame from Ford.
All right, let's get this engine back in the engine bay. All right, so here's the driver's side mount. I already marked where I think I need to grind down to make it work. So I'm gonna mount this thing up, grind it down. I'll have to tap the hole a little bit larger, and then we'll see if it slides in. I'm glad I put this angle iron in because it might end up working out perfectly. So I took the drill with the drill bit and I stuck it through the hole, and that right there is exactly where our peg needs to be pointed up. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the motor mount off and then measure 13/16 from that hole, and then drill a hole in the angle iron itself so we can mount the motor mount to the frame, and that should put us in pretty good standing. All right, I measured thrice. Let's see if it works. Where's my nut? Got some good grade 8 nuts for this thing. Okay, so we got one side done, and it took way longer than I want to admit, but it's in there. I need to go get some more engine mount bolts because that plate that's underneath that spaces it out about a 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna run to Home Depot and get some other mount bolts to replace them with. But first, let's start on the passenger side and assess the scenario. I'm going to take out the turbo so we have a little bit more space to work with, and then go from there.
Canta y no llores.
Okay. The engine is in there by its own means. I need to bolt in the passenger side mount, but I think that's going to be it for the engine mounts. I need to go get new bolts, obviously, to put into the block a little bit longer than the standard ones. Got to put the nuts and the Loctite on the mounts themselves. But after that, I think I'm ready to start reassembling a lot of these things and start the second half of this swap. Now, the motor mounts was a big stressor for me going into the swap because I didn't know what was going to work, so I'm glad that it ended up being as easy as this was. It was a little time consuming today because I haven't welded before. I didn't know how these mounts were going to behave, so I was trying to be careful with absolutely everything I did, and I was making teeny tiny little cuts as I went along because I didn't want to take off too much material because those mounts are expensive. Now that that's in there, I think I'm going to come back on Wednesday. Today's Monday. I'm going to come back on Wednesday and start cranking away on the other things. So, like I said before, there's a 33-gallon fuel cell that we're going to put in the back instead. I don't know if I'm going to do that this week. That might be something we do towards the end of the project. But as of right now, I think we're really, really close to getting this thing reassembled. So I need to sit down tonight and figure out what my game plan is and what my schedule is for the rest of this swap. But knock on wood, we don't have to order any more parts, we don't have to wait on anything else, and we can actually start throwing this thing back together so we can get it started up. So thanks for joining in for episode 8. Sorry there wasn't much for me to do today and then I've been gone for a while, but time to start throwing this thing back together.